Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of a new series that we're kind of trying out. It's called Across the Table, and today we have a guest. He runs an Instagram account with, I think, 104,000 followers. If I'm wrong by a couple, I'm wrong by a couple, but over 100,000 followers. His Star Wars _facts with a Z at the end. And his links will be down below, but we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into Star Wars. Fun fact, this was the first account I ever followed on Instagram, so what an honor it was to be able to sit down and have a talk with him.
Yeah, we just kind of, talk about everything Star Wars. We hit the movies, books, TV shows. So if you're interested in Star Wars at all, this is a must-watch interview. So without further ado, please join us at the round table.
So, how is it being in, the Star Wars community? Because the Star Wars community can at times be,
pretty nasty.
Pretty nasty.
Yeah. It has its ups and downs. For the most part, I really enjoy it because you kind of learn to just to pick and choose your fights. Because, I think a lot of people most of the time are more or less trolling you when they say something that is kind of just shaming the movies. I think most people are looking for the argument online.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of learn to pick and choose who to respond to or how to respond to things. But once you kind of get the hang of it and you get used to it, it's a joy. I really like it.
So talk a little bit about what it's like to create content for such a big fan base. You have to make sure you're getting everyone in there of every generation.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing, because especially for myself anyway, I don't think I can name a part of Star Wars that I don't like. I like everything for what it is for different reasons, so to be able to talk about it all is obviously difficult to do because there's so much, but it is really hard to get it all in there, because especially now when with the Clone Wars going on, and then just a couple months ago when the Mandalorian was out, it's kind of like Star Wars has its own seasons of what's popular and what's not.
Yeah.
So gauging that is hard, but I don't know, yeah.
How do you feel about the new, obviously with animated TV shows we've kind of had with Clone Wars and Rebels, how do you feel about more TV shows in the Star Wars universe, like Mandalorian and then the new Obi-Wan Kenobi show?
I really like it. I think it's the future of Star Wars, regardless of if you enjoy that format or not. To be honest with you, I'm probably one of the few Star Wars fans who is not very excited for an Obi-Wan series. But obviously I'll still be watching it. But I think the streaming and the TV series, whether live action or animated, it's only going to get more popular as time goes on.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more. It's definitely probably the future for Star Wars, especially with the mixed reactions
yeah,
in the
for
movies.
Sure.
But it seems like both Mandalorian and Clone Wars kind of have a genuine positive reaction by a majority of fans.
Exactly, and I think that's the future for a lot of big movie franchises going forward. I know Marvel's starting to go the same route now, announcing a ton of their own shows that are coming out, and the Jurassic World franchise announced a couple shows. So I think it's only gonna be more and more popular for everybody.
Yeah, I think just from a content standpoint, I kind of like it more. You have a lot more freedom to do what you want, seeing how there's really no time limit. So you can tell the story.
True.
You can tell the story you want to tell. And I think that's what I love Clone Wars. I think the argument's there that it's the best piece of Star Wars. But just because they have so much I think also because the budget's you don't really have to have that much of a budget with an animated show. You can do whatever you want. But just in general, the stories you're allowed to tell with having 20 episode seasons. We don't see that in the movies because they can have the blanks that they need to fill in.
Exactly. And I think and I can't figure out why or what the reason at Disney was for the one final season. Obviously, I know they wanted to finish the show, and everyone's been screaming about that for years. But you would think when they announced it, and especially knowing a company like Disney, they'd want to milk every last drop of it. So I was kind of surprised that they only announced the 12 episodes and that was it.
Yeah, especially since we have way more like arcs that are still unfinished. It's not even like
exactly.
they have to really make new stuff. It's not like they were like struggling for creative ideas. They had a bunch unfinished that probably wouldn't even have cost that much to.
Yep, exactly. So I wonder if that was just or unless it was maybe some of the cast just not wanting to come back anymore, or maybe that was it. But yeah, I couldn't figure that one out. Not that I'm complaining with what we have, because I don't think anyone is.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's such a blessing to be able to get like a little bit of closure on Clone Wars.
Yeah, and we're almost halfway through already, which is ridiculous.
I know, it's like it's flying.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing because like I want this to like last forever. I mean, I was like a Clone Wars kid when I'd stay up and watch it every week when it came out on Cartoon Network, and so like having this back is like taking me back. And I'm like real bummed out that it's gonna be ending, especially since like only 3 arcs out of the unfinished ones. Like there's still so many that I really want to see finished.
Yeah. Did you guys ever read Dark Disciple or the Son of Dathomir's storylines?
Both of them. Like recently, like me and Jacob, we were obviously like, or I guess probably not obviously, but we're roommates in college.
Yeah.
And so we started like rereading like all the canon books.
Yeah.
And Dark Disciple is unreal.
Dark Disciple is so good. It's like we're reading, like Pierce said, we're reading all the canon. Like I'm at Catalyst right now.
Okay.
And so I've done Dooku, which is really good.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I listened to the audio. Did you listen to the audiobook of it?
I have the actual script.
Man, the audiobook is life-changing.
That's what I've heard.
It's so good.
It's like, so well voiced.
Yeah, and they even have like some of the original scores in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I don't own that one, but Dark Disciple, man, if they would have put that as a Clone Wars episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Ventress's ending in that is just so poetic.
Yeah, it was amazingly well done for being in a book. It was fantastic closure on the character.
Yeah.
It's one of those like books that like I struggled to put down like a lot. I read for like 6 hours straight one day because I was just a weekend and I was like, well, nothing else to do. So I just like, read all day because I was like, this is so good. This is like, it's like I could hear the Clone Wars in it.
Yeah.
It was so accurate.
It was unreal.
Just to kind of continue the point on the books, with High Republic being announced, how do you feel about the future, like the next generation of Star Wars being in a book?
I'm very excited as someone who loves to read and write. This is like a dream come true to have it directed at me. But I think for the general fan base, a lot of people are gonna pass up on a bulk of the content that is regarding the High Republic.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. But I'm like pretty excited for it. I just worry about, I don't know, how there's not really going to be any Sith in it.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I'm thinking they're going to have, because the Sith aren't around for still a few hundred years before still or something like that. So I think in some of these books, how they're all interconnected and whatnot, you'll have like your villain who will have you'll have your subtle hints of someone or something pulling the strings in the background, but not really ever explicitly stating that it's the Sith. But I think they'll drop hints here and there very, very subtly.
Yeah. I'm actually like, because I've noticed, and I've actually like read a bit of like what you put on your like your stories and stuff, and like
okay.
So I think like one, I think it's pretty like what you've been doing is really cool and it's really inspiring, especially to me. Like I've tried to actually like sit down and write something because that's something like I really want to do in my future.
Yeah.
But I like to see like you actually like kind of like diving in and taking a step there was really inspiring. And so I thought like if anyone would appreciate it going to book, because I've heard so many negative reactions, which I don't really like agree with, because I love to read as well. So
yep.
I'm glad that like there's still gonna be like a designated like fan base that's gonna appreciate the era.
Oh, for sure. I think your diehard fans, the people who like to keep up with the canon and not just your casual moviegoers, are really going to enjoy the new content. And I know they're saying there's not going to be movies or shows, but I think everyone knows that it's gonna happen at some point eventually.
I just hope they're kind of, you know, putting their toes in the water, seeing how the reaction is, going more like pre-Skywalker saga, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, they do something with Old Republic.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable. It'll be sooner or later, like, because I'm sure you guys have heard the rumors about Rian Johnson's trilogy being Old Republic, and I'm almost positive that's what it'll be. I have a hard time seeing Disney going ahead of The Rise of Skywalker, just because of the reaction that the movies got seems to be more negative than positive.
Yeah, I would say that is the reaction from everyone. What did you personally think about the sequel trilogy? You said, you know, you were a prequel baby, so are Pierce and I. So like, what did you really think of it?
I really, really like The Force Awakens. It's probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies. The Last Jedi is probably on the bottom end of my list, but being said, I won't ever not watch it, but I appreciate it for what it is and the steps that it made in the story and in the lore of Star Wars. And then The Rise of Skywalker, even I've only seen it once, a couple days after it came out. That's the only time I've seen it, and to be honest, I'm still processing it, deciding if it was what I wanted it to be. I don't even know.
Yeah, I think like when I saw it, and I think we saw it together. Yeah. So when I first came out of Rise of Skywalker, definitely, like always on a Star Wars movie, walking out of a theater, blinded by hype.
For sure.
I was like, wow, that's probably the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
That's how we were with Last Jedi, too. Like,
yeah, me too.
We saw it, and I was like, man, I can't believe this movie was that good.
Yeah, and then you log on to Instagram, and you're like, wow, this movie sucks.
Yeah, you're on the YouTube, and you see that one video that, like, debunks the fight scene and, like, the weapons that just disappear, and I'm like, why
did I like this movie?
Yeah.
I agree, it's Star Wars, so will I watch it? Yeah. But like, and I think it is especially 8, for everything that it doesn't do well, it does tell a very original Star Wars story.
For sure, yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, almost like ridiculous to look at it in comparison to like The Force Awakens, which is almost like, I mean, I'm not one of those people that's going to say that it's a total rehash, because I think there's enough, like, new stuff to make it definitely a new movie, but it's hard to argue the parallels between A New Hope.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's part of the reason I liked it. Just personally, though, like, man, it's just A New Hope with updated graphics. I love it. But, yeah, I think that, I don't know, I saw Episode 9 4 times in theaters. I'm a big
holy smokes.
Yeah, I'm a big theater guy when it comes to watching movies. So I went by myself twice, but that's beside the point. I just like, I think with some movies, you know, it's not a perfect movie, and I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be a perfect movie, but I think like I can halfway reasonably pick out what I like and what I dislike. And there are obviously a couple scenes where I'm like, ooh, don't really like that. You know, as with pretty much almost all Star Wars, except for like probably Episode 5. And I mean, I can kind of point out and be like, that's probably could have been done better. And I can do that with 9, but overall, I think I did like the movie.
So have you guys seen the alternate version, Colin Trevorrow's version of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. And after seeing that and watching The Rise of Skywalker, do you like The Rise of Skywalker less after seeing what could have been.
100%.
I agree.
I can't tell you enough. I saw the concept art and I like read the plot and I'm like, wow, that would have been just incredible to watch.
Yeah.
Especially like the Coruscant scenes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh my, why did we change?
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, certain parts of 9, like, I genuinely don't hate it. I think that I like 7 a whole lot more. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's okay. It's definitely, I like it more than 8. But what it could have been up there on my favorite Star Wars movies of all time. I think.
Yeah.
I think it had that potential.
I think so too. I think the downfall, Disney's policy with the Star Wars movies, when they bought the franchise and said, we want a different director for every movie, in theory, that sounded like it was awesome because you'd have so many different unique ideas coming into play, everyone getting a little bit of their own self into the Star Wars universe, and it sounds fantastic. But the execution of it does not work for Star Wars at all.
I think it, like, the benefit you get from having a unified vision for all 3 films kind of outweighs the creativity.
Yeah, and I don't put it on Rian Johnson the way most of the fandom does, because I don't think it was his fault, but JJ should have been signed on to do all 3 of them regardless.
Yeah. Like, I think Rian Johnson definitely, like, I mean, he wanted to tell an original story, and and he wanted that story to be his, not JJ's, and I can respect that as, like, a person. Like, I think I would be in that same position where I don't want to, like, direct someone else's story, you know? I want to make it my own and do my own twists. But having JJ on, I think, would have made the whole trilogy feel that much more connected, because 8 almost feels, like, disjointed.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it feels like you could have done all of 8 in a title card of 9.
Yeah. And I always say, when people talk about The Last Jedi, I always say it was a fantastic movie, but it was a bad sequel.
That's such... Yeah.
Yeah.
You're dead on with that one.
Yeah. It did not do a great job at continuing the story threads that JJ had planted for the rest of the movies.
Yeah, and I think, like, then bringing JJ back and having to have him try to do his story again with, like, the changes Rian made 9 feel all the more rushed.
And one of my biggest gripes with Episode 9 is the way they played off Supreme Leader Snoke. Because he really, to me, unless you guys can somehow argue against this, but the entire idea of Supreme Leader Snoke is 100% irrelevant to the story.
True. It's like in 9 it didn't even mention him, did it?
I mean, barely.
Barely, yeah. You just find out that he was a test tube baby. That's all we know.
Like, I think that's kind of the problem. Some of the problems I have with 9 are, you know, the ideas that we're in 8, we just kind of pissed him away. Like, the whole Rey being a nobody. Like, just kidding.
Just kidding. She's a Palpatine.
Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't, like, that's part of my problem with 9 is that, you know, even if you didn't like 8, we had something going.
Yeah.
And we're like, just kidding.
Yeah. And I almost, like, I don't know how I feel about the Emperor coming back either. As cool and awesome as it was, Snoke should have been the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first, like, heard the trailer and I heard Palpatine's laugh, like, I was overjoyed. Because I was like, that's awesome. That's exactly what I want. But then I got it. And I think Palpatine went down just way too easy.
For sure.
He was like, they did the whole Thanos snap recreation. And, like, I'm not saying that they ripped it off, but it's so similar.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
And then he just kind of, like, went away. And it kind of made... I was like, if they're going to bring him back, at least make him a threat. But I think they had something really special with Snoke. Because once 7 ended, I think was my favorite time of recent history to be a Star Wars fan. Like, theories were popping off, like, left and right, like, who's Snoke, who's Rey. It was like the whole community was just in this, like, cluster of hype and theorizing.
Yeah, no one hated each other yet. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was like everyone kind of collectively was like, well, 7, you know, it was probably like definitely like a what's it called? Like a homage to A New Hope, but like it's pretty good. So let's see where they go with it.
I remember like a couple days before seeing episode 8, like we had our tickets and I was just sitting there waiting. I was like, man, I cannot wait for the scene where they reveal who Snoke is this whole time.
Yeah.
And then they never did.
Yeah.
And then he's dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm disappointed.
Especially like every time I rewatch 8 and you see Snoke like for the first time and he's actually like really powerful and like brings Kylo to like his knees and the whole like Force lightning thing that he does. Yeah. I'm like, wow, they really could do like a cool new villain.
Yeah.
And then he just dies and then his death reveals that he's nothing more than a pawn, I guess. But
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that could be done better, and especially, I don't know. How do you feel about the new additions we're learning through the novelization? Like how she's not really like his granddaughter. She's kind of like a weird daughter-ish.
Yeah. Part of me, like my inner book nerd, says it's okay just because I know I'll read it and I will enjoy it. But then the other part of me feels for the fandom that will not read it and just watch the movie, because I think they should, like, it's almost like we're getting two different stories then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas, how can you have two different stories when they're both trying to tell the exact same story? It doesn't add up, and I don't know if I blame that. I guess that's in part to the author of the novelization. I forget who wrote this one. But I think it was a girl. She has to explain the plot holes that JJ didn't cover, but he should have covered, and it's a mess. It really is a mess.
Yeah. There's just so much in 9 that's kind of left open. Because it's just like so much in that movie. So like trying to go away and explain it, and then like you'll have half the fan base who like keeps up with the news and reads the books, and they'll understand like what officially happened in canon. Then you'll have the people who just watch the movie who think that Rey is like his actual granddaughter, and it's definitely going to be like a divide in the understanding.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I know I don't know if you guys have seen have any of you guys read the novelization yet?
No.
Is it even out?
I think
it came out last week, maybe.
I haven't read it.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
I saw a small paragraph on Instagram that was a line about when the Emperor was thrown down the shaft in the second Death Star by Darth Vader. He was able to he sensed that there was always light deep down in Vader, so he kind of expected that one day this would happen, and he was able to basically throw his soul / essence across the galaxy to Exegol, where we have all of episode 9 happening. Yeah. And then so they released that the Emperor knew Vader could potentially turn on him. But then we find out at the beginning of the book, when Kylo Ren is on his rampage on Mustafar to find the Wayfinder, that was right outside of Vader's castle. So Darth Vader had a map to Exegol for no reason. And the Emperor, like, it seemed all too convenient. Like, Darth Vader knew the Emperor would somehow go over there, because what are the chances you have a map for one planet in the galaxy?
Yeah.
It seems all too convenient to me, and it starts to mix up what has been established prior to the movie.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the movies kind of wrote like the saga itself into a corner.
Yeah.
And now the authors have to figure out, how am I going to make this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think one of like the biggest like pluses of reading the books is you get kind of like a background sense of how the world. That's my favorite part about Star Wars is the actual like lore that genuinely makes sense. Like, you know, the books kind of answer like how ships are made and how it actually costs money, and they have different, you know. So like one of my big things, especially when I was watching that movie, is like when the magic fleet appeared on Exegol, that was ginormous. How did they build that? How did they get the crew to man that? Just out in the middle of unknown space.
Yeah, there's so much that, and they have the like thousands and thousands of people in those stands.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on? This is so weird.
Yeah, it's like a weird cult thing. I don't know. I really am curious about that explanation, like in genuine. I want to see what the book says, like if those are like the spirits of the past Sith.
Yeah.
I think that'd be kind of neat, but I also don't know like how would that be. I don't know if that'd be canon breaking, because it was like nobody can preserve, like wasn't Qui-Gon like the first one who learned how to preserve himself?
Yeah, supposedly,
Supposedly, so they're gonna have to write a thing like, well, that's actually not true. We just didn't know.
So, have you guys read the Aftermath trilogy?
I've read like the first book, but it was a long time ago, and
it's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
I'm very excited for it.
Book-wise, I think I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to read them in chronological order.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like right now, I've got Dooku, Master and Apprentice, which was fantastic. Have you read that one?
I have. I've read all. I think I've read all of the canon books aside from the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked Master and Apprentice, and then obviously we talked about Dark Disciple, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm on Catalyst now.
You've read Ahsoka too.
Oh, have you read Ahsoka? It's the.
Yep.
I loved that.
I was a tad bit underwhelmed by it. I liked the story, but I felt like it was a lot of aimless wandering throughout the galaxy.
Yeah, I can kind of get that. I just thought like, I don't know. I love Ahsoka as a character.
Like, for sure, yeah.
You know, I've seen her grow, and I thought anything with Ahsoka I'll be interested in. But
yeah,
I think just to see like kind of what she did between Clone Wars and Rebels was pretty fascinating. How she was kind of just wandering.
Yeah, very, very true. And her run-in with the Inquisitor was pretty wicked to see.
The whole breaking it, like her taking the crystals from it and then putting them into her own lightsaber. Man, that was cool. Yeah. So to kind of switch subjects here real quick, if you had to rank all of the Star Wars movies, that includes, you know, Rogue One and Solo.
Okay.
What would your ranking be? And then Pierce and I will say ours.
Oh gosh, that's hard. I feel like every time I watch a movie, the order changes.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't agree more. My list is so ever changing.
Yeah, and I hate ranking them too, because when I say like this one's my least favorite, I feel like saying least favorite is not even close to how I think about it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, least favorite means it's ever so slightly worse than my favorite.
Yeah, it's like telling someone to choose a favorite kid. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love them
all. If I had to rank them all, number one, without question, is Return of the Jedi. That's my favorite. Number two would be probably The Force Awakens.
Oh.
Then I'd go Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Solo, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith. I can't remember if I said that already. and then Attack of the Clones, The Phantom Menace, and The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I'm definitely, and I'm gonna hard admit this right now, my favorite is Revenge of the Sith, and I know that that's not the best Star Wars movie. It is. Is it entirely nostalgia based? Yes. But like,
that's fair.
I know I've talked to Jacob about this a couple times, but that's like the first Star Wars movie I like remember seeing in a theater.
Yeah.
As a kid, and I think that was like one of the, because I used to, like my love for Star Wars has kind of went in a weird shift. Like at first I was a diehard hater of the series because my mom started me off on what's the Phantom Menace. And I was too young to appreciate the Phantom Menace. I saw the pod race and I couldn't even like stay awake through the pod race. And so I was like, you know what, the rest of this series is not for me. But then I watched Attack of the Clones on like accident one day and I was like, holy crap, I love this. And so then I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And it was like an eye-opening experience. Like, not, I don't know if I'd call it eye-opening, but it was like definitely what started me on like becoming like a die-hard Star Wars fan.
Yeah, for sure.
If I had to rank mine, just so you don't feel lonely being put on the spot, number one's Empire for me. That's just, man, heat check from Harrison Ford right there. Like, what a performance, you know? But 2, for the same reason as Pierce's Revenge of the Sith. Like, I remember having the Lego set of Anakin and Obi-Wan dueling and thinking, this is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And then, probably, I don't know, 4. I'm going to do them by numbers because that's easier for me to think of in my head. 4. Then Rogue One. Like, I'm going to defend Rogue One. That movie's awesome.
Yeah, underrated, I'd say. Well, both Solo and Rogue One both get forgotten quite easily, I think.
Yeah, Solo's a little bit lower for me, just for the fact that, like, I think it's a good movie, but it doesn't feel as Star Wars to me as Rogue One does.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it, but, like, I mean, it's a good story, and out of all, I just wish there are other stories that I would have cared about more.
I was on the I will admit, like, when they announced that a Solo movie was coming out, I was on the boat for, this is ridiculous. I don't want it. We all know who Han Solo is. We don't need this. And then when I saw it in theaters, I was like, holy crap, why didn't they make this earlier? I really, really, really like that movie.
I think like I think that Solo has a lot of really like good in it. Like there's parts, especially like in the theater, where I was like freaking out. Like when I think Donald Glover does an excellent Lando.
Oh, for sure.
Like I was blown away by how accurate his Lando was.
Yeah.
And I think that the ending scene, especially with Maul coming on, was like, huh! I did not expect that. My heart was like racing. Yeah, I don't know where I'd like rank it in my overall ones. Like you said, it's like choosing a favorite kid. I love it, but like, ooh, I don't know how well I like what's his name who plays Han? Is that, I never pronounce it. Starts with an A.
Alden something. I don't know how to say the last name either.
I don't know. Does he feel like Han to you?
To me, he does. No one's Han Solo except Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
But he came pretty darn close to Harrison Ford 2.0.
He definitely was a lot better than I thought he'd be.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I was kind of nervous that he was going in trying to be Harrison Ford as a character more than Han. And, like, that is one thing. Like, I think he played Han's character as best as he could.
Yeah. For sure, I would agree. For me, the scene, that set the tone, that just had me sold on that this was a fantastic movie, was when he pulls the Kessel Run. It's just instant chills the whole time.
And they got that iconic like score that starts playing.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
You've got me there.
Yeah, I don't really have an argument against that. What do you think about Rebels?
I think it's an underrated piece of Star Wars. I think the first season is pretty lame, but so was the first season of the Clone Wars.
True.
But it picked up pretty quick when they brought Thrawn in and more of the Inquisitors and Maul and I will say the season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice, is hands down my favorite animated Star Wars episode between Resistance, Rebels, and Clone Wars. That is the best animation we have ever gotten.
I think that's a close one for me, but I find it hard to argue with. The only one that I could see, like for me personally, is Obi-Wan and Darth Maul's episode.
Yeah, that was really good too.
Like I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, but Pierce showed it to me one day. The voice acting that Sam Witwer?
Yeah, Sam Witwer.
Yeah, that he does for like the Darth Maul scream in the beginning is unreal.
He kills Darth
wicked.
Maul.
Yeah,
he kills him.
But that whole ending where, you know, he switches from what Obi-Wan did as a prequel character to like the original trilogy character, and pretty much that scene itself is so poetic. And then,
for sure.
If you look, like, there's breakdowns on YouTube of how Darth Maul's using the same thing he did to kill Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And then, like, the music and everything and the ending, wow, great.
It's fantastic.
I get excited just thinking about that scene.
Yeah, I don't know. Rebels has definitely some... Rebels for me, and, like, I've used this analogy a bunch, but I feel like Rebels is like a series of, like, islands. You know, and you kind of swim between episode to episode, and there's a lot of just you swimming, like nothing really happens.
But I can see that.
Then you like hit one of those islands like that, and where it just ramps up, and the whole show is elevated because of it, and it's like unreal. Because I think those 2 episodes both would be, in general, like better than the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like, but then like I don't know, a lot of the other episodes where less kind of happens are kind of for me.
I think the ending of that show is like I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched it when it came on Disney Plus, and I was like, okay, I really need to sit down and watch this. And I like Pierce told me, he's like, you'll be half of it you'll like. There are like parts you'll like and parts you won't. And like Twilight of the Apprentice was great, and the battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul was great. And then the ending, I genuinely really, really liked the ending. You know?
Yeah, the jumping after episode 6.
Yeah, and then just the maturity of Ezra. Like, I don't know, I feel like in those last couple of episodes, he matured into the character that he should have been this whole time.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of why this show was so frustrating for me. But then at the end, I was like, you know what? I kind of like him. He's growing on me.
I was slightly, because at the end of the Twilight of the Apprentice, when it in like the final minutes, it's kind of switching from character to character to see how everyone kind of came out of this whole situation, and it ends with Ezra opening the Sith holocron, and I was super upset in season 3 that they barely explored Ezra going into the dark side, which kind of bothered me because I think that had potential for a wicked story, but they kind of shoehorned that one away pretty quick with Kanan getting rid of the holocron and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the Rebels could have really improved from like a Clone Wars kind of tone, because I feel like that storyline where like if he would be struggling with the dark side, it could have been told in Rebels, but like with Disney kind of making it less dark in general, it would have been harder. I think that Thrawn could have been, don't get me wrong here, Thrawn is like one of my all-time favorite characters in Star Wars. Yep. I love him. I've read the books, I've seen like that stuff. I love Thrawn, and so having him in Rebels was like great. But I think
it was awesome.
I think having like if Rebels could take a darker turn and sometimes would have made Thrawn a little bit better, even it's still.
Yeah, I think Thrawn. I was pretty skeptical when he came in because I think everyone was, just with the fact you're like, you can't bring in this character who is a fan favorite from Legends and just have him be killed off by a group of rebels no one
Yeah.
even knows about. That was the fear, but the whole way he was handled and defeated even was, it stayed so true to his original character, which was awesome.
Yeah. I actually like I mean, my like minor complaint is definitely minor. I loved how they did him, and I actually really liked his end. And I think with the rumors of a Rebels spin-off, or like the future of Rebels,
like a Rebels season 5 or something.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very cool to see like the aftermath of what happened, and just I don't know how I feel exactly about a Rebels season 5, but I definitely don't. I think it could work.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely room to tell or to continue the story, and I know there were rumors before episode 9 came out, or I guess theories, not so much rumors, that um, Richard E. Grant, the gentleman who played General Pride in episode 9, that he was going to be playing Thrawn in episode 9. And as cool as that would have been, my one, like, as badly as I want to see Thrawn in live action on screen, if he gets onto the big screen, he's gonna die, which sucks.
You're so right.
I'm just gonna, the last two, cinematic-ish pieces of Star Wars. What do you think about Clone Wars? And then what did you think about Mandalorian season 1?
Clone Wars has been fantastic right from the start. This whole final season has been exceptional. The animation, I was a little iffy at first, but it's so much more fluid and so much more clean, and so much more watchable. I think they stepped it up and brought it in the right direction for everybody.
Real quick, how do you feel about like the casting for Ahsoka in live action if that pans out?
I'm okay with it. I've seen and I'm excited for it. I've seen I don't know if you guys saw the edit that was going around with Hayden Christensen and Rosario Dawson photoshopped as Ahsoka and Anakin. Mildly creeps me out. I was really uncomfortable with that.
I haven't seen that, but I might have to look it up after this.
It's freaky. I'm totally down for her to play Ahsoka as long as it doesn't look like that Photoshop, because that scares me.
Yeah, I liked Mandalorian season 1. I had my flaws with it. I understand, they were trying to get people interested. But I feel like some of the episodes, they just needed to get some storyline started. Some of the episodes, they were just trying to, just fill up time, essentially.
Yeah, I can see that. And again, with kind of like with the Thrawn being on screen, meaning he's going to die thing, with Moff Gideon and the Darksaber, like, man, I love the actor and I love the villain, and it sucks to know that he's going to die.
Yeah, I'm curious what they do with the Darksaber, though.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting, and that's why I'm wondering about the whole Ahsoka thing, because last time we saw her in Rebels, she and Sabine wanted to go find Ezra. So now if she's in the Mandalorian, does that mean Sabine's gonna be in the Mandalorian? Are they going to find Ezra? Like, I just wonder how much of that storyline from Rebels will carry into the Mandalorian, if at all.
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that. But it's because, yeah, it depends, do we know, the timeline of when, that last bit of Rebels was? How far after 6?
I have no idea. Yeah. I would imagine it has to be before the Mandalorian, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, is this going to turn into the Ahsoka and Sabine side adventure? Or what they'll do there. I really hope not. As much as I would like to see it, I think it deserves its own show, book, comic, or whatever they want to do.
Yeah. I think you're definitely you're right on with that one. I think that I don't know, Ahsoka in live action, I'm glad that's gonna be, because I know Mandalorian is like definitely more accessible to like a majority of like Star Wars fans who might be like, oh, I don't want to watch an animated kid show.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that they're kind of bringing her in just so that people will get to understand her character and maybe inspire them to watch the animated shows, because I've had this, like, we've had the talk with like a bunch of people about like who wouldn't want to watch like Clone Wars or wouldn't want to watch Rebels because, you know, it's a kid show.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan,
I feel like they're a must-watch.
They're unreal, and so I'm glad. I hope that this like serves as inspires some people to get into like more of the, I don't know what you'd say, more of the niche audiences. I don't even know if Clone Wars. I don't even know if I'd call that a niche audience.
Yeah, I feel like anyone who like really really likes Star Wars should watch Clone Wars.
I think so too. I would definitely agree with that. I think Rebels is, you can miss it and not have any problems.
Yeah, that's kind of how. I mean, Clone Wars just covers so much that we don't get in 3, and it makes Anakin's path to the dark side makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You know, we don't really, as much as the characters grew on me in Rebels, they're not near as important.
No, and I definitely recommend it, but if you don't got time to waste, then you don't really have to bother.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not like you're missing an essential part of the Star Wars story.
Exactly.
Like even like Rogue One, I think I would say would be like in like kind of like the same like boat as Rebels, where, well, no, not so like people kind of think that they can skip it, but I feel like Rogue One has a little bit like more worth than Rebel. Alright guys, thanks so much for listening to our first episode. Please let us know if you enjoyed it, what we can improve on. Obviously, this is our first time doing any kind of interview work, so we might be a little bit rusty, but we hope to keep doing this sort of thing. If you have anyone who might want to come on, who might serve a purpose and talk to us about something, tell us down below. Let us know.
Also, don't forget to follow, obviously, Star Wars Facts Instagram. We'll link it below. You know, he was really, really nice for coming on to the podcast. So go hit him with a follow if you don't follow him already. Super nice guy. You could tell by the interview. Give him a follow. And while you're on Instagram, go follow our Instagram page.
Thoughts on the Round Table.
And also, you're like, man, I love social media. Let's follow some more people. Go follow Thoughts from the Round Table, Twitter at @roundtable_pod.
We post polls on both, so if you're thinking to yourself, well, I have Instagram, but I don't have Twitter, you'll still be able to vote on the movies we watch every week. But if you have both, you get 2 votes.
Yeah, so
tell me where that's, tell me the logic there. Follow us twice.
Yeah.
We're going to try to post also some stupid stuff, maybe occasionally as well. So it'll be a little treat. Yum, yum, yum.
Also, if you, like, listen, I don't want YouTube notifications. YouTube's kind of silly sometimes. Follow us on both. You know, we'll put either a story or a tweet out whenever we have an upload. So please go follow us there if you want some more info about when we upload. And I think those are the only shout outs we have, other than, of course, subscribing.
Please subscribe. That'd be awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast apps.
Rate us at 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. I don't know if we have a single listen on Apple Podcasts, but if you're my guy right now and you're listening to this outro for this long, 1, I'm impressed. 2, rate 5 stars because why not?
Yeah.
So without further ado, I think that's gonna wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks.